Okay, let's take a look at the Melody tab in Rhythmizer. Moving from left to right. And actually, before I do this, I'm just going to turn the swing up a little bit because our backing track is in a swung groove. So over here, we have the shift knob. This will literally just shift in semitones, our input note. And we have octave up and down here. Over here, we have the scale section. Everything related to our scale lives here. So we can choose from these built-in scales, or we can choose a custom scale. Let's start with a built-in scale, minor pentatonic, very simple go-to scale, kind of foolproof. Now, a lot of our control comes from these two guys. Here's where we select the range of scale notes, from just a few scale notes to many. And here's a probability that we're going to get any scale note at all. So, hey, let's visualize that. As I bring the probability up, we're going to get more scale notes, but we're only choosing from one scale note. So let's bring that right up. Now it's choosing from more scale notes. And as I bring this probability up, we're getting more and more scale notes and less of our bass note. If I turn this up to an extreme, we're going to get tons of notes to choose from there. And we're going to keep coming back to this throughout. Over here we have our scale direction. Currently we're in random, so it's just firing us notes at random. But we could have notes in an ascending order. Descending order. We can just stay at random. Over here we have our unipolar and bipolar. So you might notice that currently all of our notes are occurring above our input note of D sharp 2, but we could have notes coming either side as well. Now we're getting notes on either side. Stay in unipolar for now. Here we have octave spread, so we can actually shoot the notes up to 3 octaves at random. Now over here is our note stream. This is just visualizing the notes that we're getting. But it also has a second function, and this is where we get to custom scales. Now, we could go over here and click custom and choose a custom scale there, or we can use whatever scale we currently have selected as a starting point. So if we just click copy to custom and then edit scale, this will actually bring up that minor pentatonic that we were just looking at. From here, I can just edit these notes. We can even click into the dimmed area. And edit as we like. Or we can clear that and just start from scratch. Now we're just on a custom scale. Now by default, we're visualizing this in C. So a lot of us will recognize minor third, perfect fifth, seventh, octave, and so on. But our track is in D sharp, so you might want to actually reframe what we're seeing for D sharp. So you can actually drag down here, and that way what we're seeing are the actual notes that we're getting, so we can draw in those actual notes. And those are the basics of custom scales. We can start with a custom scale, or we can choose a preset scale and start editing it. Let's move on to another super cool new feature in Rhythmizer Ultra, and that's the poly stack. here we can add harmonies and even custom chords to our melodies. So we have 3 different modes for doing so: chord, user, and random. The most basic one is chord. Here we can just add basic triads on top of our root note. These will play irrespective of what's going on here. So let's visualize that. I'm going to bring in the probability of a minor triad coming in. You see it's just adding minor triads there. All 3 of our polystack modes will respond to the scatter control, because often when we play a chord, for instance on a piano, we don't want our fingers to all land at the same time. So scatter is just going to add a subtle delay there with chords. Let's take a look at the random section. The random polystacking is going to create chords using our scale notes. It's going to choose at random from the notes that we have in our scale, whether it's a custom or built-in scale. How many layers of polyphony, so how dense those chords are selectable here, and we have our probability. Let's visualize that. As I bring up the probability, we're going to get some double stops, as in 2-note chords. As I bring up the polyphony, we're going to get more dense chords. At 100% probability, we're getting only chords. Down here in the user mode of polystacking, we can create our own custom chords using intervals. I could, for instance, have a minor third, or a perfect fifth, or a minor seventh occurring, and these harmonies will be added irrespective of what we have going on here. So we can have our own custom scale going with everything we looked at before, and then we can just add little intervals on top of that. To wrap up the melody section, let's take a look at bend mode. Here we're going to be sending out pitch bend data, so it'll look like this. You'll see that our synth will actually respond to that. Now that's pretty drastic, right? So let's bring the bend down. That's just going to be sending out smaller bend. If that's still too much, why don't we head over to our synth? And almost all synths are going to have an ability to change the pitch bend range. So much smaller pitch bend range there. Much more subtle. Over here we have the rate. And this can be synced or unsynced. Keep it synced for now. We can choose from a variety of shapes as well. We can choose for these to be re-triggered, so the shape will always be generated from each note. Let's hear that. In later videos, we're going to show you some practical tips for getting some really cool sounds out of this section. For now, let's return to a nice sort of vintage tape wobble sound. A little bit of subtle wobble, but you might notice that we're no longer hearing our scale notes, because we can be in scale mode, or bend mode, or if we click the link, have both. And that wraps us up for the melody tab.